Hi, Julie here from Copy What I Use, and because so many people have been asking me how I personally balance working from home with homeschooling my children, I thought I'd shoot a quick video today to actually show 10 tips that might help other people in the same situation who may be struggling a bit to balance the both. So here are my top 10 tips to try and make homeschooling and working from home run side by side more smoothly. Okay, so the first one, I'll just write on this board for you here, is structure. Don't worry if you can't see it because I'll actually zoom in on it at the end, okay? But basically, without structure, the whole world would be in chaos. Because imagine a world where we didn't have appointments for doctors, dentists, or hairdressing appointments, or whereby we didn't have a structure of school terms or start and finish times for work, start and finish times for school. As you can see, without structure, the world would be chaotic. And the same applies to trying to balance working from home with homeschooling your children. You have to have a structure in order for it to work for both parties. Okay, so my advice would be to actually set up a structure of when the homeschooling is going to start, when your children need to be up and dressed, when homeschooling is going to start, how long each session is going to last for, how many breaks they're going to have and when it's going to finish. And then equally then you can structure your working from home around that schedule. Now number 2 is negotiate. Sorry if I spelled that wrong, I can't think something was wrong. Negotiate terms. So this sort of links on from the last point, meaning that as well as actually structuring the homeschooling day, what I find useful for my own children, because I've got teenagers, is to actually involve them in the process, because particularly with teenagers, if you actually make them part of the process and they feel they're getting their say, it tends to work and run a lot smoother. So I would say to actually sit with your children and negotiate what sort of thing, time structure they might have. Because for example, some children like being up really early in the morning, some like to get up slightly later, and everything's fine really as long as you fit it into whatever structure you've agreed. So agree with them what sort of format they'd like the learning based on, what sort of time they'd like it to start, and what ways you can get them to negotiate with you to come to terms together, so then it works for your home working and it also works for their homeschooling as well. Because if you've got them on board, particularly teenagers, you're halfway there. Okay, so number 2 is negotiate terms. Another thing that I usually add into the mix as well is I actually agree a reward with them. I say, well, if you actually stick to what we've agreed, I'll actually do a special reward for you at the end of the school working week, which would be the Friday. Okay, so that's something you can actually contemplate, and that comes into my next point. You could also even do a mock contract or something. Some children like to actually sign something, and then you're both on board and you're actually singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak. Okay, so number 3 is rewards. Factor in some rewards with homeschooling. I find generally rewards work brilliant, no matter what it's for. So agree, if I was you, I would agree at the beginning of the week what the reward is going to be, and agree it for the Friday, because that gets them on board then for the week. And it doesn't always have to be expensive things, because amazingly, the things that actually the rewards that matter more to my teenagers is actually something that involves my time and doing the simple things in life. Let me think off the top of my head some examples of rewards. It could be to get a tub of their favourite ice cream ready for the Friday. You could do a movie night whereby you can include some popcorn or some pizza and their favourite drink. It could be a bar of their favourite chocolate. It could even be to all play a board game in the night, because what I find is, with me working from home, sometimes that can be difficult for the girls to get their heads around. So I find if it's something involving my time, like playing a board game, for example, that means a lot more to them as a reward. But again, you know your child better than me, so actually sit down with them and work out which reward they would like, and just say that that will happen, providing then that they're on board for the homeschooling all week, and they allow you to do your bit working from home as well. So then that's an objective then and an incentive for them to actually do it. Okay, number 4 is exercise. Now, one thing I would stress with exercise, and there's a reason why I say this, is that no size fits all. So what do I mean by this? Well, if I was to actually believe Facebook, I would just think that every parent in the world and all their families are getting up and just watching Joe Wicks in the morning, doing a workout with him, and they're all up on time and dressed. But that's not always the real world. Because particularly with teenagers, and I say teenagers in particular because that's what I've got, they very often don't think it's cool to do what everybody else is doing. Now, sorry Joe, I think you're actually brilliant and I love what you do, but I think it's a teenage thing. Sometimes they like to do something different. And I'll share a short story with you of something that happened the other day that sort of gave me a light bulb moment when it comes to this exercise bit. Because I randomly went into my oldest daughter's room and there she was busy learning a Beyonce dance track and how to dance it. Now, anybody who sort of knows my daughter, she is actually mad on Beyonce. In fact, I think she thinks she is Beyonce sometimes, the amount of time she's sort of singing her songs. But anyway, she was actually really focusing now on learning this Beyonce dance. And it made me think, do you know what? It doesn't really matter what exercise you do with your child, because at the end of the day, as long as they're getting some form of exercise, then it's a win-win situation. So do you know what? I let my children now decide what sort of exercise they want to do, and I just do with them. Like, for example, you might even enjoy doing the Beyonce workout with them, you know, because at least it's something different and it's getting them on board. And equally, the type of exercise you can do outside. I mean, for you, it might be you've got boys and maybe they want to do a football session with you out. So maybe include them and ask them to actually say what sort of exercise they'd like to incorporate each day. And then, as I say, it becomes a lot easier then to get them on board. So that's actually exercise number 4. Number 5 is mindfulness. Now, I think this could benefit both the parent and it could benefit the child, to be honest, because in the times we live in at the moment, it's incredibly stressful. And a lot of teenagers and parents alike are getting very, very anxious and very sort of stressed out. So I think to include a session of mindfulness, whether it's during the break with homeschooling or whether it's at the end of homeschooling, doesn't really matter where you introduce it, but I think it could benefit both parties to help keep calm and focus to introduce it somewhere within the homeschooling session. Now, there are loads of books and free apps out there that you can use for this activity, so it's just a case really of picking which one suits you best. Okay, and that takes me on to number 6, which is to go outdoors. Now, we all need fresh air, especially in the current times, so try and include some sort of your homeschooling outdoors. Now, that can be to actually do a bit of revision, it can be to do your exercise, or if you've got younger children, one brilliant tip is to actually include forest schools. Now, I don't know if any of you have come across forest schools before. I used to love helping out with this activity with my own children when they were young. And it's basically where you actually include nature in your studies. Now, examples of activities that we enjoyed doing when we did it was, one of them was to make a crown, whereby you get a long strip of cardboard, you put some a double-sided sticky tape along the middle, the centre, and then you would just attach some things to it then, just let them pick their own things. I mean, the ones that I used to help, they used to put some leaves on there, pieces of twig, some flowers. It doesn't really matter, because it's just the concept of them making something with nature. And then you just obviously fold it around their head and then just staple it in place, and it makes a really attractive crown. Now, another one that we used to do was a mobile, or mobile, however you pronounce it, and that just involved a long stick of wood, and then you just tie some loose strings at the end, and then attach, again, some things from nature. They could choose, again, it could be flowers, it could be pieces of twigs, it could be leaves, it could be anything really, and you just attach it. And then if you want to go super creative, you can actually, if you can imagine, you've got your piece of wood like that, you can actually incorporate another one across as well, so you've got them dangling from 4 ends. And again, that's a really great thing to do. And another thing they used to love to do as well was to get a sheet of paper, put it across the bark of a tree and get some coloured crayons and just rub the crayons against then the bark of the tree, and you'd have some lovely nature then artwork. They used to really enjoy that. And at the end, what we used to do was sit in a circle with a cup of squash and biscuits. I mean, let's face it, all of us have got some squash and biscuits in the house, and we'd sing a song. Now, if you want to be super exciting, you could actually FaceTime 1 or 2 friends and get them doing it with their children, this section all together, and then sing all together over FaceTime. And that could make it just more enjoyable for your children. But that's a great tip if you've got a younger child, because not everybody seems to know about forest school, so I'd share that one as well. Okay, so that's including outdoors. Number 7 is mutual study time. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, as a working from home mum myself, I know it's very, very difficult sometimes to fit in the homeschooling bit or the helping with the revision, whatever you're doing, and working from home. So what I advise is that once you've covered a certain topic, get your child working independently, give them some work to do, especially if they're old enough, and then they can get on with that. And then you bring in, say you're doing it for half an hour, bring in some of your work so you can actually do some of your working from home as well at the same time. Because this will help your child to realise that you're working in the house as well, so it'll help to motivate them. It will get them working independently, which I think is really good. But also, more importantly, it will help you better identify whether they've taken in everything you've covered in the homeschooling session. So this is a great tip of how to incorporate and to get the both of you on board with doing your work. They can do their homeschooling and you can do your working from home. Okay? So that is number 7. And number 8 is to revise ahead. So no exams are currently cancelled at the moment, but you can never revise too soon. So my recommendation would be use this homeschooling time wisely and revise with your children ahead, because it'll be a lot less stressful for them then when they come to take exams. Because just imagine if they go into school already prepped with what they're going to cover, how much less anxious and more confident they're going to feel when they actually cover those topics. Now, one easy way to do this is obviously you've got the usual ways that you can do it on the YouTube. There's BBC Bite Size. But there's also another way that you can do it, and that is to actually order the revision books. Find out what topics. You can always email the schools, because they're all still available in the information. Ask them what topics they're going to be covering next year. And if they're doing English literature, for example, ask what books they're going to cover and order them ready, as well as the study aids. And then spend some of your homeschooling time, even if it's the end of each session, going through some exam style questions. Now, I can't stress the old past papers enough, because the longer you do past papers and for the way that questions are answered, so check the answer bit as well, the more your child will get into the way that those examining bodies are going to want them taking in information and, more importantly, answering that information. And I really can't stress that enough. Practice on as many past papers and answers as you can, because that's the secret to how top scholars get the A stars at the end. Okay, so revise ahead, because my children now, even though they're in sixth form, they've already ordered their books and they're actually starting to read them ready. Okay, because you can never revise soon enough. Or too soon, should I say. Number 9, so that takes me nicely on really, to vary the techniques. No child takes in information the same. They all like to do in different ways, and even if they have got a preference, if they're a visual learner or a text learner, they still like to mix it up a bit and have a change. So I would recommend use as many different study ways as you can. Examples of what you could do is anagrams. You could actually scramble up some letters of an answer and then get them to find out the right answer. And believe it or not, this is a brilliant way of taking it in, because I've done this on my own children. And then I've actually, believe it or not, I've set this question and forgotten myself, because when it's scrambled up as an anagram, even I forget what it was. So that can be a fun way of doing it. There's brilliant apps out there where you can create quizzes to do with your children for your homeschooling. Examples of those are Quizlet, and there's another one beginning with K. I can never remember the K one. There is one. I'll pop a link at the bottom, because I can't remember them begin, but there is another brilliant one I know that the children told me about. And that's a brilliant way of doing it as well, do it as a quiz. You can use mnemonics, whereby a mnemonic is where you make up a rhyme. I mean, those of you who follow my blogs and follow my YouTube channel will know I'm a big fan of mnemonics. One of them is where you learn the class list for biology. Let's just see if I can remember now, is the mnemonics is, I'll do that one first for you because that's easier. King Philip came over for good food, okay? And that's to remember that is kingdom, class, order, family. Going through, I am King Philip came over for family, G, genus, S, species. Okay, that's an example of what we call mnemonics. Another one they do in primary school, I can remember my children being excited when they learnt, was spelling because. Let me think what they used to say for that one. Big elephants can't always use small entrances. That's an example, brilliant way of learning it. So there's lots of different ways you can do, and just a tip for you, I am preparing a free guide at the moment, which I've almost completed, and it's called the A to Z Homeschooling Guide for Parents, and I include a lot of fun ways and different ways of studying within that free guide. So watch your space, because I'll be releasing it real soon. Okay, and it's free, so you just as well download it. And finally, number 10, memory tricks. Now again, lots of you who follow my channels will know that I am a big fan of memory tricks. They date back to ancient Chinese times, but for some reason they were lost for centuries. They've been rediscovered, but I'm still amazed how few people still know about these memory tricks. I don't know why they don't teach them in school. I don't know why they're not made more available to parents. And that's why I'm on a mission to share these memory tricks with as many parents as I possibly can, because I can't stress enough how much easier and quicker it makes revision. So how do they work differently to the traditional methods? Well, the first way is that you're actually taught to use images and stories to remember tricky bits of information. So numbers, paragraphs of text, tricky lists, you can learn them by attaching them. You get taught how to use images and stories to attach to these tricky bits of text and numbers, and believe me, they go in a lot quicker. And the brilliant way with doing it this way is you only have to learn it once, and the way you learn it then stores it into your long-term memory, meaning that it will be there forever. You just practice every so often and it will always be there forever. So you imagine how much information your children can store up in their long-term memory. So the quicker you use these techniques, the better, in my opinion. As I first came across them about 10 years ago. And as I say, I'll put a link at the end of this video to another video that I made that actually shows you a brilliant way of using these type of memory techniques to learn 10 numbers. It turns out there was first 10 number digits of pi, but it's really quick and clever way of doing it. But anyway, the Greeks and Romans used them. But as I say, I don't know why there are so few parents and why schools are not teaching using these techniques. Basically, well, as I say, it's amazing to me, but as I say, I can't stress you enough that it goes into long-term memory. It will almost be like your child is taking in their revision notes into the exam with them. That's how effective and powerful these memory tricks are. Okay, so if you want to learn more about those sort of memory tricks, obviously I can't fit much more now in this video because I've gone on a lot longer than I expected, but I'll pop a link on the bottom, and if you want to find out more information about these alternative memory tricks so you can actually make homeschooling more fun and create more time for you to do your working from home at the same time, then I'll pop a link at the bottom. Alright, I hope this has proved useful for you. Feel free to share, the content with anyone you think it might help as well, but hope this has made the process easier for you of how to balance homeschooling with working from home and make it a bit less stressful for everyone. Okay, so that's it for now. Sorry, it's got a bit long, this one, but I hope it's given you a lot of value. Good luck with homeschooling. Bye for now.